Okay, I'd like to bring this meeting to order. The Village of Villa Park Committee of the Whole meeting, May 8th, 2023. Clerk Kronicky, please call the roll.
Trustee Silala?
Here.
Trustee Corkery? Here. Trustee Kozar?
Here.
Trustee Kumar? Trustee Murphy? Here. Trustee Patrick?
Here.
President Kazone?
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, our discussion items tonight, item 3A is determining a green energy strategy as it relates to entering into a municipal electric aggregation agreement. Adam Hoover is at the meeting to present options for the purchase via municipal aggregation and how to balance those savings with the higher costs of green energy.
Hi.
Adam, we'll turn it over to you.
You can hear me all right? We're all good? Okay. As a reminder, I don't know, maybe a month ago, I think I came, maybe a month or two ago, and we approved a resolution that gives, I think, the president or Matt some signing authority to move forward with a municipal aggregation program when we know more about the ComEd rate. The ComEd rate is not final, we're probably 2 or 3 days from getting the final number, but we have enough numbers to give you guys an indication of what we think it'll look like. So there's good news and bad news, matters how you look at it. Good news is the rate dropped much lower than even I expected. So currently we're all paying 9.7 cents per kilowatt hour if you're on ComEd, and the rate drops down is going to drop down to somewhere around 7 cents. So that's a great, for every resident in Northern Illinois. So what does that mean for the municipal aggregation program going forth? You really have two real options. I mean, there's plenty of options here, but I'll give you the one that make the most sense. Option one, and the most green option, would be that you can move forward with a rate of, I'll just give you a couple numbers. The lowest rate with 0% green energy is 7.3 cents. I could be more specific, but just rounding to be kind of easier. So that would be 3 cents over. I don't encourage that. If you wanted to be super green and be the most green, you could have residents pay around 7.5 cents for 50% green energy, or 7.7 cents for 100% green energy. The way that some towns do this is that they say, hey, it is an opt-out program, so any resident that does not want to pay the extra, it'll probably be anywhere from $20 to $50 a year to participate in this program, they could opt out. But what you're really doing is you're giving your residents an option if you want to move forward with this option, is you can move forward with an option that allows residents to be a part of a program that really allows for green energy at a cheaper cost. And if they don't want to do it, they can opt out. So the downside of that is that there's going to be some residents that are paying more than the ComEd rate, just to be very flat and succinct with that, but they can opt out if they want. The positive of that side is, and that's the one page I emailed Matt a little late today, but I try to show you what that would look like, of how much green energy that would be purchased. It's the same, I forget the number exactly, but if, supporting like 11 or running 11 wind turbines for 1 year if you went with 100% green energy. So some municipalities who are very green forward thinking will do this, and that's their thought process. So that is option number one. So anywhere between 25, 50, or 100% green, with the option of your residents paying a touch more, but a reminder they can opt out if they choose. So that's option one. Option two is a program that guarantees that the residents will pay the ComEd rate. So they will go, if it goes to 7 cents hypothetically, residents will pay that 7 cents. That is guaranteed. If it goes up or down a touch, because ComEd moves it a little bit from month to month, the supplier will match it. So there's no way someone on ComEd and this municipal aggregation program in option two would pay more. They would always be equal. And then our supplier would either do two things. They would either provide 5% green energy, or they would provide $20,000 to the municipality. So those are kind of your two options. I'll kind of walk you through or answer any other questions you may have. So there's kind of option one, that is the fixed rate one, that will likely cost more money for the resident, but they could opt out. That provides more green energy. Or option two, which is no change to the rate for the resident, but smaller amount of green energy, or $20,000 to the municipality.
And
Go ahead.
yeah, so Adam, a couple other things. So when we were talking just last Friday,
Yeah.
we were talking that you didn't you didn't have as much information as you do now.
Yes.
The idea that the ComEd rate would be that low, we were a little skeptical about. The memo was written with the idea that their rate would be higher than what it looks like it's going to come in.
The memo that I wrote,
The one I wrote
Yes,
after our
yes,
discussion.
yes.
The one that you're at, yours is before the last meeting. So you're just make sure I understand. So at that point, we were thinking that you could, that we would be able to incorporate green energy with one of the lower rates and still meet the ComEd rate. Just to want to make sure that those people who read that memo, that option really doesn't exist if we get the ComEd rate that we're anticipating. The good news is lower energy rates. If we chose just the ComEd rate, my understanding that they're required to still incorporate 5% green energy into any, or there would be 5% green energy in the ComEd if we went with a straight ComEd rate.
If you went, are you saying if you went with that, what I call the ComEd rate match program where residents,
Oh, ComEd rate. So if we just say we're going to go with ComEd, there's no green energy if we just buy the.
correct, just, every ComEd by law, right now, everyone is purchasing 17% green energy. That's how the state of Illinois does it, and their goal is to be sustainable. So it would be 5% additional to that if you went with that guaranteed rate match. So technically, you could say 22% green energy.
Right.
But as a reminder, everyone in Illinois is at 7.
Right. So the state rate, the state minimum is 17% as a base.
That's what we're doing with ComEd right now.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Right, and then the other thing is, if there have been other green energy companies that have gone door to door and sold to residents another contract for green energy, and some of them pretty low rates. Some of those rates are variable and will increase after a period of time. If they wanted to switch to the village plan, what options and who do they contact?
So just a reminder, residents who are on ComEd are automatically enrolled in this program. And residents who have their own supplier. So if someone went door to door and they signed up for a deal, they can opt into this program. The only thing that we can't answer with that is that we don't know what that current contract they have and what the requirements are there. Illinois is very kind to the resident in these situations. They usually make sure that they can get out in 3 to 6 months, but there may be early termination fees. So if someone is with a different provider and does want to opt into the the aggregation program with Villa Park, we would encourage you to look at the contract to see early termination fees.
But if you didn't do that, you don't have to do anything
Correct.
to get the main plan.
Correct.
And if we do go with a program where we go with 100% green energy and end up around 7.7 cents, describe how they opt out to get out of.
Super simple. They'll send a letter on village letterhead, by the way, at supplier's cost, so no cost to the municipality, but it has to be on your letterhead per state law. And there will be an email, a phone number, and as well as I will be providing my cell phone for them to call. And one of those 3 options, they either call me, call MC Squared, who is the lowest provider, or the email that will opt them out. So it's one step and they're done.
Okay. Billing all goes through ComEd though, so right? Correct.
Yep,
You
there's
bill
no
no matter
change. Yeah, really, there's no change to the resident. If the rate changes, you see billing, and if you have power outage, you call ComEd.
Okay.
I guess you just answered part of my question, but I was just wondering how you differentiate from green ComEd. Is it just a meter reading? There's no service change.
There's literally, there's one line on a bill that says powered by MC Squared. That is what the resident sees. They'll see the letters that inform them, but when we actually talk about the bill, there's no real change except for a line on the bill that says
So
powered.
they won't expect any type of wire changes?
We've never had any disruption. We've never had a day where residents have had power, and we've ran over 200 programs. That's just not going to happen.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, President Casano, if I could, one other thing. I think you mentioned this, but I just want to make sure it's clear. The total electric rate from ComEd is not going to drop by 30% or 28%.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is some of the other portions of the electric bill.
There's 3 portions of a bill, really 2 for the sake of this conversation. There's a supply portion, and that is my whole entire job is I try to find lower portions than the ComEd rate. And then there's the delivery rate, and that's the delivery and taxes. That is by ComEd and state of Illinois law. We all have to pay no matter what. We cannot change those. And what I think Matt is alluding to is there's going to be hike rates on our ComEd for our delivery. So everyone will see more of an increase in the delivery portion. Just to be clear, they will see that if we run an aggregation program or if we don't. Everyone's seeing that no matter what. We can't do anything about that.
Okay. Trustee Kumar.
It would be helpful if you could send a bill with where we can see the rate change, I think would
I could
highlight it.
send a sample one tomorrow to Matt.
Yeah, that would be helpful for all of us and also for publicity when we actually decide on the program.
It's really
It's just so that people can compare it.
agreed, but super easy and super, yeah, no real transition there.
Yep. Any other questions? Any comments or anything?
I'll make a comment.
Sure, go ahead.
I mean, I know we're not making a decision on this, but I think the 100% renewable option is very exciting, especially given that people can opt out if they want to. I'd definitely be interested in pursuing that going forward.
Okay. Anything else you got, Manager?
I'm definitely interested in hearing what you guys think, though, tonight. So if you want to have some discussion, and also wanted to point out that Bob Wagner from the Chair of the Environmental Concerns Commission is here, and one of the reasons we're having this discussion is because of the work of their commission. So I just wanted to point that out. And anybody who might be a future trustee is welcome to chime in for my benefit as well, staff's benefit as well, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's fine. That's what we're here for. Well, I think Trustee Corkery had his opinion on that, which is good.
For right now, I think option 2 would be my go-to as a starting point.
Just to be clear, that's the guarantee, they guaranteed that rate match, either 5% green or $20,000.
Right.
Okay.
And just a thought of what some have done is they've used that $20,000 for environmental projects. Because if you do the 100% green, one downside municipalities have thought is it's really hard to advertise that. Like, you're purchasing a ton of green energy. It is a really monumental change, but you can't see that. And so some people have taken the civic contribution of something like $20,000 and done electric car chargers in the parking lot, or renovated benches or something like that. So even not taking a green option, but committing that $20,000 to green options is what a lot of towns have done as well.
Kind of like showcasing your savings.
Because you can see it rather than, it's really hard to,
Kind of
my
like a
biggest issue
DUI
is,
program,
Yeah.
when you confiscate something in a DUI, a vehicle or something along those lines, they can see the outcome of their efforts.
exactly. I feel like one of my biggest, we do these great programs and they save a bunch of green energy and they're, producing it, but people just don't know because you can't see it. So.
Okay. Just goes there.
I'm in favor of the 100% green energy. I think that'd be a good route for our village to go. That's where everybody needs to go eventually.
Illinois' goal is to be there by 2050, so.
Anything less than 100% green energy is basically subsidized energy. And we're borrowing that, we're taking that subsidy from future generations. So we have to pay our dues today, not have somebody else pay them tomorrow.
Okay.
Well said.
Trustee Kumar?
I think I also am in favor of 100% green. One, the subsidization aspect, I agree with Trustee Kozar on that. However, even more than that, as we go in time, I do feel that if we start out with the green process, the prices will come down, the more people sign in, and the more we get involved. And of course, you can opt out. So we're not forcing anybody towards that green energy. So as long as we keep it clear, I'm for that.
Okay. How long is it, this program, is it every year we renew it?
So you could do a one-year deal at for let's say 100% green, because that's what I'm hearing, but there's other options, just to be clear, but 7.69 cents for 100% green for 1 year, or 7.89 cents for 2 years. Once again, you could do a 2-year, the rationale for some doing 2 years is that you are really no longer comparing to the ComEd rate because you're just offering a different product. And then the 2-year also is nice because there's less letters that go out, and so there's less confusion about what the program is, and you're doing twice the amount. That infographic I sent out was only for 1 year, so just double that, and that would be what the 2-year potential would be.
Okay. And then if you option out, can you option back in, say, 6 months later if you want?
Yes, there is one goofy ComEd rule that if you leave one supplier per ComEd, this is ComEd's rule, that you cannot go back to that same supplier. So you would have to wait for 6 months. That is the rule for 6 months. But yes, you could opt in. Someone who's really financially conscious, if you did a 2-year program and was really looking at their bill, they could opt out of this and say, hey, this doesn't have the savings that I wanted, but in a year from now it might. It's projected to, but that's also, I projected the rate to come down to 7.5 cents, so I may not be the expert here. But then next year, if there is savings, they could then hop back into the program. So for those that are very aware of the ComEd rate, they could do that.
Yep. Great, thanks. Trustee Patrick.
Thank you. I don't know if you can tell us this or not, but in your opinion, how many other municipalities are choosing to go 100% green?
That's a great question. It'll be interesting because a lot of, like this week will be a busy week for me. A lot of municipalities are in your same position. Hey, we lined it all up and now we're waiting for the ComEd rate to figure it out. I would say there's probably going to be about 10 who are probably in that 100% green range. And we probably work with 80 communities. And I think there's going to be about, I'm going to estimate here, 50 that will say we don't want to do anything if it costs our residents any money. And then I think there might be about 20 or 30 that would jump into the 5%. That second option, which is the rate one. Okay. Those are all estimates, but just based on conversations I've had with boards and village managers, that would be an assumption. Right now, I can name 5 other communities that have moved forward with 100% green.
Which ones are those?
Lake Zurich, Park Forest, Lindenhurst. Money. But this is a test now on my trying to figure out who else has Rolling Meadows, and I can't think of the last one. And there's other ones, by the way, that we've had deals with previously that are 100% green, but there was a lot of better options 3 years ago, and then they got, anyway, so your timing also matters a little bit here.
Okay, thank you.
We talked to Bob about this, I think, a year and a half ago, and finally we have something that we think is presentable.
Trustee Kumar.
That just kind of tells me even more that we should go for it, because as he said, timing is everything, and if we have an option now, let's start now.
Good point.
Your question.
Trustee Law.
This may be for you. Does the committee have any input on this recommendation to us?
The commission? Yeah, Bobby, if you'd like to come up and speak on it.
Bob, yeah. It's out your way.
So the reason we contacted Adam Hoover was because we had received some input from village residents. Anton Dimov may have sent some of you emails, and other folks within the village were very interested in going with a 100% green energy option. But at the time when we talked to Adam, the rates were not favorable.
Oh, it would be much
Yeah, so that's when we were talking about to the board about community solar, but now that things have changed, this would be more advantageous. As has been mentioned, it's an opt-out program, so people are not forced to be a part of it. And, a 1 or 2 year contract certainly would be another opportunity for residents to, if they find it's not favorable for them, they could, take the steps to opt out as well. And as you mentioned, there's a contribution to the village as well.
It matters which option you go with. So
Right, exactly, yeah.
We can jump into all those options as well.
Right. So I think in general terms, the commission at the time, and I think we had 3 meetings with you and your dad, we were very interested in it, but the environment changed, so it wasn't advantageous at that time to go to. So.
Trustee Patrick.
Bob, this question is for you. Could you tell us what option the commission would recommend the board to approve?
I think the general consensus of the commission at the time was, they were leaning towards a 100% green energy option, but,
Okay.
the composition of our commission has changed, so I can't speak for the commission as it stands now, because we've lost some commissioners. We're going to get a new commissioner, but, I think the general consensus of the commission that we're very favorable towards a 100% green energy option.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Manager Harlan?
I just had one more quick question for Adam. Is there, there are several different options before the board. We can present sort of a detailed list of options in a resolutions, and they can pick whichever one. Obviously, by the past resolution, I'm empowered to enter into that deal, but I think there's still some decision level, some decisions as to what percentage of green energy, although we've got 3 yeses for 100% now. So there's a couple different things. We could ask, send it back to environmental concerns to give us a specific recommendation on the new information from you, or we could move quickly and adopt something at May 22nd, or we could get a consensus tonight and
Just to
give
be
new direction.
clear, the
Yeah.
resolution does not mandate you to do anything, but
Right.
you have the ability to sign, or I don't know if it was the village president or you, Matt, but someone has the ability to sign tomorrow morning or tonight if they want to. I'm not saying that that's the
Right.
only option.
Right.
So that is what that last resolution did. If you wanted to act quickly and jump on this rate, boom, and let's do that. But yeah, I think what I'm hearing is we just need to figure out if the option is 100% green. I'm not hearing a lot of 50% greens or 25% green. So I think it's either 100% green or the ComEd rate match program, which is either 5% green, and if that's the option, 5% green or $20,000. So those are kind of option 1 or 2. Or option 3 is allow residents to remain at ComEd. So I'm verbalizing kind of, I think those are our 3 options. And
Right.
I've talked to Matt before, and I think he's like, I don't want to make the decision on my own, which I appreciate.
Well, this is a policy decision. I
Yes,
figure it's
yes.
best in the hands of the,
No, I agree. I think, and I don't know if we need to make one tonight. It'd be nice to maybe get 2 weeks to get some resident input. I don't know what the board, Trustee Patrick.
I was just going to ask if the board can take a general consensus of whether or not we want 100% or not. I would lean that way as well, and if you've already mentioned that there are 3 other board members that are in favor of that as well, I think a general consensus would be appropriate.
One more question. Being it's an opt-in, opt-out, if we want option 2, there's, other than possibly a higher rate a year or 2 down the road, wouldn't it a stepping stone of a baby step opposed to just jumping all in all at once, not knowing exactly what we're getting into as a trial? Be a smart move? I'm just asking, that's
Now you're
my
asking my
thought.
opinion. Now you're putting me on the hot seat. I don't
I
like
am.
that. I just came here to give you facts, not give my opinions on
Well,
it.
you look like you want to answer that question.
I would say, yeah, that's a fair way of looking at it. Option 2, and I don't want to jump in the weeds too much because I don't want to confuse the board, but with option 2, our supplier, this is the one, by the way, we call it the rate match program, the guaranteed to match the ComEd rate. That one serves a smaller portion of the community. It's because what they do is our supplier MC Squared would find residents who they could be profitable on, which is not the entire community, so they maybe serve 10% of the community. So only 10% of the community would get letters. A reminder, everyone's paying the same rate because we do not want to put group A and group B and you're paying this rate and that. That's where we get confusion. But it is a smaller amount of population of people, so you could make that argument. And we, obviously when you're guaranteed matching the same ComEd rate, then it's obviously there's not a lot of issues there. So that is a valid point.
and if we go for the, sorry, if I could, President Kazan, if we choose the blended rate to make 5% green energy across the
ComEd rate match?
Yeah, the ComEd,
Yeah, with 5%
ComEd rate
green
match.
energy, yeah.
A resident could not then opt into
They could
100%.
Oh, correct.
Yeah, they could not opt into 100%.
Want to figure out a way for that, but I think it's too difficult for our suppliers. There's not a lot of suppliers that even offer option 2. There's only 2 right now that we use. I want to do that, but I'm not in charge of the suppliers portion. Just to be clear, if you found 100%, I looked this morning, if you wanted to find 100% green for my own house, I live in Chicago, it would be around 9 to 10 cents. So that's the bulk purchasing coming together to get you that rate of 769 for 1 year.
Trustee Kozar.
We're the Garden Village. I mean, we need to live up to that. That's why we need to just jump right into 100% green. It's the way of the future. I mean, we've spent all the years in the past not having green energy. If we subscribe to being the Garden Village, let's live being the Garden Village. And let's just move forward with it, sign it today, be done with it.
Trustee Corkery. I agree. I think the time for half measures on the environment was about 50 years ago. Now we're running out of time very quickly, so I would like to move forward with 100%.
Trustee Kumar.
The clean energy, where does it come from?
That's a great question. So our suppliers don't purchase it until the contract is made, so I cannot guarantee this. But our last couple programs we ran, it's been about 75 wind turbines, wind farms, and then about 25% hydroelectric. So that's not a promise or guarantee if that's what they do, but the last couple programs they've ran, that's what they've done.
Where does the hydro come from?
Somewhere in the Midwest. I don't know that exact answer, but all of them are in the Midwest. It's part of. They have to be part of the Midwest. They don't want to do California or whatever other places.
Okay. Okay. Well, it looks like, Trustee Murphy.
I'm just going to make the comment that I would be in agreement with President Couzon. I think it would be of value for our residents to be able to provide input as opposed to 6 people giving their opinions on what they think is best for all of our residents. So I would agree with President Couzon on that.
Do we lose much if we delay 2
It's a $1
weeks?
million question. I promise I'm not trying to sound like a salesman here, but you have the lowest rate today that I've seen. So I think about a month ago, it was about 7.4, 7.5 for 0% green energy, and today, so probably around 8 cents for 100% green, and today it is what I say, 7.69. That is the lowest we've seen, so maybe that's now you're playing a guessing game, a gambling game, guessing game of do you think it go lower or higher? So I cannot answer that.
Okay. Trustee Corkery.
I would just say to Trustee Murphy that it is an opt-out program. Any concerned residents are, of course, free to opt out of the program at any time.
I understand. Thank you.
Trustee Kumar.
I would like to lock in the green energy at the cheapest rate possible, and if in fact this has been a standard, or you have some kind of evidence to say that it's been one of the lowest rates possible, we should lock in, I think, because rates of everything is going up. So, I mean, it's just something we should lock in when we can for the residents. If we're going to go green, let's go green at the lowest possible rate.
Okay. Trustee Patrick.
We could make a motion tonight to accept this tonight, is that correct?
It's a consensus. We can't make a motion on this.
Okay, it would have to
We
be
can
put
have
on the next agenda.
consensus.
You
The
could
whole
tell
meeting.
Matt, Matt, do you have signing authority? I think Matt has.
Yes.
So I think
Yeah.
you could tell Matt, that's what our last resolution did,
Yeah.
that Matt has the authority to sign tomorrow if he wants to.
Yeah.
And so you guys gave him signing authority, so that is what the last one did. The last time I was here, it was 7.99 for 100% green energy, and so now you're at 7.69.
Yeah. So we have consensus to allow manager to go ahead.
I think in my conversation, I think Matt's just looking for some
Yeah.
opinions.
And if for some reason when Melissa gets here, if there's something that says that it can't be done in consensus at during the committee of the whole, you can always make a motion during old business during the regular meeting.
Yeah.
And then you'd still have the ability to do that.
Yeah. But yeah, since we gave the manager the ability, I would think, we should be able to do that.
We were waiting for the comment rate to come out. Obviously, if we could save money and do green, I think then that becomes a different conversation, but we're kind of have the information we have now.
Okay. All right, so we'll have a consensus to go for the 100% green energy program and allowing the manager to sign for that.
Okay.
I think that's what the board is looking at. Okay.
Ready?
Roll call,
Okay.
please.
Trustee Corkery?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Salella?
No.
Trustee Kumar?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy? No. Trustee Kozar?
Yes.
President Couzon?
I'll say no, but it's a vote 4-3, so the manager will have the okay to go ahead and sign for that tomorrow. And hopefully it doesn't go up overnight.
Yeah.
Good.
It's usually 48 hours.
Yeah,
Okay, good. All right. Well, thank you for coming, Adam. Appreciate it. Bob, thank you for being here, too. Appreciate it. Okay, go to item 3B, is discussion regarding sanitary sewer assistance program. The current sewer system assistance program offers limited assistance, which is $1,000 maximum, and only once per location, regardless of project size or ownership. The village budgets $40,000 annually and is able to fulfill all of the requests, but the assistance is not enough to encourage the more costly repairs that would bring houses fully into compliance with current codes. Staff has 3 suggestions to improve the program, which are explained in the memo that was sent out, and Public Works Director Guerra is here to go through them.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think we just, Manager Harlan and I myself wanted to have a discussion with regards to our Villa Park Sanitary Sewer Assistance Program. I believe several board members are familiar with it, but over the course of the 3 years that I've been with the village, things have kind of changed in the last couple of years. I think we had a discussion maybe when I first started about this, but we've had some topics come up that are kind of repeatedly come up, and so we wish to have a discussion to see if there's any will to change the program, to make some modifications to be kind of more in line with some of the changes that we've experienced the last couple of years. And being an engineer, I made a PowerPoint so that people in the audience and at home can kind of follow along with the memo that was presented to you guys, so they can kind of understand some of the talking points and discussion. So currently, the village offers a 50% reimbursement program, and this program can be used for building sewer repair. That's your sewer lateral, your wastewater lateral that goes out from your house to the main sewer, and that's for repairs or upgrades to that one. Additionally, we can install a check valve. This is kind of prevents the water to go backwards up the water line, back into the home when we have surges during heavy rain events or clogs. And then we also have a program for your driveway, stairwell, area drain connections. This is the removal of what we call fresh water or your surface water. Your building foundation drain tiles is kind of included in this. And by the Illinois Plumbing Code and the EPA, you got to remove that fresh water from the sanitary system. So as what we've done in the village is has the I&I inspection, what we call it, the compliance inspection at the sale, the time of the sale of a property, that we go in and we look to make sure there's no connections of sub pumps, area drains from the outside bringing fresh water, your storm water, into the house and into the sanitary drain. And so we offer that program included in this. But our maximum is $1,000, and that's a lifetime $1,000 for the property. So once the property exceeds $1,000, it's done. It cannot be used again for any other repairs or modifications. Additionally, the village does provide stone backfill. So if you're in the right-of-way, any portion of your repair for your sewer laterals in the right-of-way, we will provide the stone backfill for that. And then also the pavement restoration. We'll go replace the driveway apron, sidewalk, roadway cuts, to help try to reduce some of the costs for our residents. We do that with our staff in-house. We don't contract that out. We do that with village employees. In your packet, the main memo, and this is a little bit smaller, it's hopeful that it'll be bigger. I put the 3-year, but in the back I put 5 years. So I went back and looked at the past 5 years. How many repairs did we participate in, and like kind of against what our budget was? And so while you cannot see that, in 2018 we had 21 applicants. And what I did was I broke it down by the average cost of the repairs, because our Dennis Jensen, our foreman, tracks these. So he tracks the actual total cost of the repair, the estimates that we received, and then the type. So like in 2018, the average cost of a sewer repair was about $6,700. To put in a clean and check valve, a backflow preventer, was about $4,000, and then the area drains was about $2,500. In total, we had 21 applications, and a total of improvements that was done by residents was about $92,000. And we budgeted $35,000, so we spent $21,000 of that $35,000 in 2018, and that kind of goes across the different years. I think it's in your packet. I won't go through all of them all, but we've kind of upped it. I think the last time we looked at it was in 2020, and at that time we saw a surge. I think that's the COVID surge, because we had 32 applications that year, and our budget was 35, so we about maxed out our budget at the time providing assistance. Since that time, what we've seen a trend in a little bit is some of the average costs have kind of gone up slightly, and so the applications have gone back down. But overall, the fresh water, the area stormwater drains is about $2,000, but the check valves and the building sewer repairs are now averaging $5,000 to $6,000. So that $1,000, if you're doing an area drain, is about 50%, but all the other ones, it's not near 50% any longer. And so what I did was I looked at what are some of the other communities around us, what do they supply? So Lombard, they offer 75% reimbursement up to $1,000, but that's only if you're just putting in a check valve. And there's interior check valves and exterior. In Villa Park, we usually encourage a clean and check, which is an exterior check valve that you put outside your house on your property so that you can have a clean out and a check valve. If you do that in Lombard, you receive a max up to $2,000. And then they also offer what's called an overhead sewer. And I'll have a different illustration that kind of shows what that is for the explanation. But that's bringing your existing sanitary sewer system in your house up to the current plumbing code. As more of the historical homes, the older homes, the sewer goes down underneath the foundation and out. This moves it back up to come out, I think 3'6" from grade out through the wall, which helps prevent backups, backflows, and those sort of things. Similar, Elmhurst, they have two programs. They offer up to $3,000 for a check valve to be put in, a clean and check, and then 50% up to $5,000 for an overhead sewer. So they kind of match. Similar in the overhead, there are 50% reimbursements up to $3,000, which is quite a bit higher than us and a little bit more than Lombard. And then for some reason it copied the same one. So this is actually Roselle, not Elmhurst. So Roselle has a 50% with a max of $2,500 for a check valve, or 50% max reimbursement for overhead sewer. And so this is what I'm talking about. So your existing homes, for a lot of the historical homes that were built in the past century, before 2000s, before the 90s, most of the sewers go down and they go out underneath the foundation out to the main sewer. So when that main sewer over here on the right side surges, it has a tendency to come back up and come back through your floor drains in your basement and cause backups in homes. And a lot of times those foundation drains and stuff around the footing there are tied in, or area drains, stairwell drains are tied into that same sewer line, because that's the lowest point. It drains out and that causes the issue. This is an example of a clean and check, usually on the exterior. As you can see on the bottom one, it goes outside your foundation wall, it goes in, and this is essentially a flapper valve. When the sewer starts surging, that valve pushes shut to prevent water going back into your home. But when this is occurring, obviously you have limited use of your interior appliances because it's pushing its pressure, it won't release. So while it prevents damage backwards, it kind of limits stability inside. And then they're usually typically with a clean out on the outside so that you can clean both sides of your sanitary sewer lateral. And then this would be an example of converting to an overhead. As you can see, the dash lines coming down that was existing. Essentially, an overhead sewer installation, you got to replumb your main floor into a line that goes out through the foundation wall. So it's gravity fed, and then any of your basement floor drains would go to an expulsion pit, which would pump it back up to that drain. And this prohibits a lot of the backups into your homes. As you can see, you're significantly higher than the main sewer. So, and then this one would be, a lot of them offer 5,000. So because you are separating your sewers, you are replacing most of your sewer through that program. So what we'd like to discuss is some of the modifications. One, my proposal would be to make the stairwell drain and area drain an independent program. I&I reduction is a huge priority for our village. That's problematic throughout. And with the I&I inspections, I think it would be very advantageous for both the resident and the village to offer that as a one-time up to $1,000, seeing that the average is about $2,000 to get those fresh water out of our system, which would further help the overall system of the community. Additionally, I think it would be worthwhile at this time to also increase the building sewer repair and check valve reimbursement up to $2,500. That brings it back closer to, on average, 50% of the cost that the residents are experiencing, since the average cost is somewhere between $5,000 and $6,000. And I say average because we have seen significant costs on some residents that is greater. Additionally, lately we have stopped allowing spot repairs when it's under pavement. So out in the roadway, we won't allow residents just to make one little spot repair. We kind of make them take it to the main. And for that, I think they should also get an additional $1,000 allowance to help with that additional cost that we're requiring. That helps the resident is now, they don't have to ever go out into the road. It helps the village because we're looking to limit the number of cuts in the road, especially with our moratorium, that once we repave the road, you're not supposed to cut it for 7 years or 3 years. So this would make underneath the roadway up to your current PVC piping, your stronger piping, But there comes a cost. So I think that would be fair to offer additional $1,000 for the repairs that extend from the edge of the right-of-way to the sewer connection in Maine. Yes, trustee.
I have a question about that last $1,000. How much does it generally cost to do those repairs? Is it about $2,000? Are we doing about 50%, or what are we doing here?
So it's a little bit hard because it all kind of comes into correlation to the depth of the sewer. So some of our sewer mains are around 8 foot, but some are down to 20 foot. So it's not maybe a one-to-one projection. I would say on average, we are looking at running maybe, another 20 feet of pipe. So that's about a $2,000 in pipe cost. And this option too, we will still stone and pave the roadway. So we'll still provide the stone to fill the back trench for the resident, and we'll pave, but this just adds a little bit of the cost. However, sometimes the sewer's on the other side of the roadway, sometimes it's deep, so it's kind of hard to give an estimate. And I'll be honest, the prices we've seen, some are skyrocketing, and we feel it's probably a little too high. And so part of our program, we do require 2 quotes, and that 2 quotes is also to provide protection for the resident that they are getting a fair price. And not, so if they get 2 quotes, obviously it should be parable so that they can get a fair price. So I would say it may not be on par for 50% on the average all the time, but we are requiring that now, and so we feel it'd be fair to offer additional compensation.
On this last option here, I would like to see a policy change made that the village accepts responsibility from the easement to the sewer, given a good percentage of our sewer problems in that area are caused by our parkway trees that we planted. Why do we throw that on the resident as a cost to them when it's not owned by the resident? They didn't plant the tree, but yet the cause is from things that we've done in the past. I know Addison does it, I know Lombard does it. So I would like that option to be taken away and made it the sole responsibility of the village. I know it's a cost, but we caused it.
I think that would be...
Just a thought.
So that would be a code change, so that would also be, this is through a program.
Right.
That is per our village code, that the
Right.
village owns just the main, so that would be...
Well, we could change
consideration
that.
of a policy change on the board that the code would need to be modified.
I
But
think it's a great idea.
as you stated, it comes with a cost. There's
Right.
Yeah.
Could be a big cost. 10,000 laterals that we now take ownership of.
I completely agree with Dave. I think that the village should take responsibility for that. And I understand that it comes with a cost, but the cost is the same. We're putting it on the individual homeowner for all the same reasons that Dave just articulated. I would go so far as to direct the manager to work that up into and put it on a future agenda so that we can be more informed on it and potentially take a vote as to that. Thank you for bringing that up, Dave.
No problem.
Trustee Kumar.
I'm not disagreeing, but I would like to see some numbers as to how much it would cost us on average per year, so we have some idea if, how many sewers would have to be addressed and how much it would cost us before we make any code policy changes.
Yep, definitely would like to see that cost.
That's,
Go ahead.
based on that, we can
Sure.
contact surrounding communities and see what their budgetary numbers are, and go back and look at some of the prayers that we know of.
Okay.
I did have a few other recommendations. One of them is, one of the issues that we've seen recently too is this program's been around since, I think the last revision was 2015 and the one prior was 2013. So it's been around for over 10 years. We've seen now that some programs where the people may have done a spot repair in their sewer lateral, they didn't fix the whole lateral, so now the remainder of the lateral is starting to fall apart, and now they are excluded because they've already participated in the program, reach the maximum lifetime reimbursement. So is there any appetite to put a limit time frame that they will be re-eligible after so much time? knowing that building materials do wear out.
Manager Highland, it could even have been previous owner at the same,
Correct, we're seeing turnover, so we've now seen some where the previous owner opted for a certain repair because it was cheaper at the time. They've now sold the house, it's turned over, a new owner has it for several years, and they're dealing with that. Additionally, I think it would be worthwhile to offer an overhead sewer program with a reimbursement up to 50% for a maximum of $5,000. Overall, this is the best repair and modification to the system for the resident and the village, but we do know that it's awfully costly. And so that $5,000, and that would just kind of match some of our neighbors with Elmhurst, Lombard, Roselle, to offer that program. And then with that, then you need to increase the lifetime reimbursement per residence up to $5,000. The reason I thought $5,000 was because if you replaced an overhead sewer, you've pretty much taken care of all of your I&I, you've taken care of your backflow, and you replaced a lot of your lateral out in your front yard, because you have to bring it back down in. So you're pretty much covering all the other programs with this program. So if you go to overhead, most likely you won't need repairs in the future. And then the rest is up to questions or suggestions, discussion.
Sure. Okay, thanks. Trustee Kozar.
I'd like to see that reimbursement rather than being for a fixed number of years or for the lifetime of the property. I'd like it to see that being for per owner. So if you switch ownership, the new owners coming in shouldn't be prevented from upgrading or discouraged from it because they're not getting the benefit.
Trustee Lal.
Just another question. Is it not policy that during a sales transaction of a home, our plumbing inspector identifies it as being up to code or not up to code and puts that onus on the seller to bring it up to code so that the new owner doesn't have to fall into this reimbursement program?
Per our code ordinance, what our plumbing inspector looks for is the fresh water, the I&I. So he's looking at make sure if there's a sump pump, the sump pump's not connected to the sanitary line, that there's not any area drains that's connected. And that's all he's really looking for. That's the compliance per our code that he goes in. He's not looking to see if the sanitary sewer is in good shape.
No, I understand
those sort of things. So the I&I, that's why I think it would be worthwhile to make that program independent of the building sewer repair, because those are the three things, those are not the three, but foundation drains, any source of fresh water going into our sanitary is what he's looking for, and that's the compliance that's put on the ambiance of the seller, because that's how the code was written at the time, was not to go throughout the community and force separation, but to do it at the time of transactions. But once it's separated, it should be separated permanently, because we don't allow any reconnection back into it.
Well, that's what I'm saying, by enforcing the fact that the seller has to have his sump pump disconnected from the sanitary per code, that would take that responsibility off the new buyer, who then wouldn't have to apply to participate in this, if it could be addressed at the selling.
For the freshwater portion, for the
Correct.
I&I, correct. For the sewer lateral portion, the repairs, that could still be in play, because they might have a clay tile that was good at the time, and then 5 years later, it disintegrates, or, they make a spot repair in one section, and now it's downgraded farther down the line. But I believe you're correct, Dave. I think if you do the I&I, it should be one time, because once it's separated, it's separated.
Right.
It won't go back to being combined.
Trustee Kozar.
Can you tell me again what the plumbing inspector looks at before a transfer? You had just said it, I just want to be clear what it is.
So it's looking for the freshwater connections. So typically it's area drains, so like stairwell drains that are outside the building. We do have some older homes that have exterior basement entries into a stairwell.
Okay.
And that stairwell drain is connected into the existing sanitary. Usually sump pumps, make sure the sump pumps are connected, drain independent out into the yard. Downspout connections, make sure downspouts are not connected in there. And then area drains, stairwell, sump pumps. And then if there's any possibility of any other freshwater
Rain tile
connections.
around the house.
We do some.
They don't inspect for that, though. You can't.
The foundation drains are really hard because they're outside the foundation typically, so you don't always see those connections. So those are kind of hard to determine.
Sorry.
But those are the ones that prohibit. They normally take count of the fixtures, those sort of things, and can provide some guidance, but we don't restrict the passing of the I&I compliance. That's only as if there's actual connections from fresh water to the sanitary.
So follow-up to that, area drains are on the ground level, right? Sump pumps are on the ground level or basement, for that matter. Downspouts are outside on the ground level. And drain tiles are also on the ground level. So why would the plumbing inspector inspect the whole house and go up on the second floor and that?
So typically, we count fixtures and those sort of things to provide information, to keep it up to date. As of what we've seen a lot of times is there's been illegal work, that unpermitted work, that sometimes will now be hard for the new owner. We do review if there's any open permits, so we can get those permits closed before they transfer the property. Those are all courtesy, but those don't preclude the passing of the compliance.
So the plumbing inspection does a whole house inspection, not just these 4 items that you said? Or are they just kind of under the veil of the plumbing inspection, searching the whole house?
Well, it's kind of under the veil to make sure that we know what connections are to that sanitary line, sort of thing. So we know how many toilets are connected to it, how many sinks are connected to it. We do check the water meter. A lot of times that's done in compliance because the cell, we have a final read. We also are looking at those times for the material. Lead services are very important, so we are also using that opportunity to look at the service line coming in to see if it's lead, copper, or other, as that's required by the EPA. So when we go in, we do look at a few things while we're there to be kind of a one-stop shop versus having to get back in several times. But the I&I is only related to the freshwater connections.
But we don't have a whole house inspection requirement for Villa Park.
Correct. So he's not looking at anything structural. He's not looking at any of those sort of items. He's just looking more at the plumbing fixtures and counts.
So I guess what I'm getting at is, I know that the plumbing inspector searches the whole house and walks through the whole house under the guise of just basically these 4 items. I think in the spirit of transparency, if we're going to do a whole house inspection like that, we should call it a whole house inspection, and we should just do that rather than cloaking it under something else. And that's not directed to you, that's directed towards our manager for maybe a future conversation on this.
Yeah, we can discuss that.
Yeah, the inspection is not exactly the topic for tonight's discussion. We can have a discussion about what's done with what the plumbing inspector does on a regular inspection. Some of the words in there, cloaking, some of the other stuff, sort of, I don't think we're trying to hide anything in our inspections. But if we want a description of all the things that are covered in a house inspection, we can provide that to the board, and then we can look at if there are things that we need to adjust in our policy.
Okay.
That's a little bit off of the topic of what we're trying to get done tonight, but I appreciate the comment.
Good, thanks. Trustee Slaw.
Just one small question, and Mike, this is before your time, I believe, but we did have a smoke testing program to identify perimeter drains, downspouts, or those things that are hard to identify by just looking at a house from the exterior. Were there ever results in locations that were identified and acted on, or is this something that's ongoing?
So we have not smoked for several years. I want to say I think the last smoke test that we performed was in 2019, and it was on a segment. It might have been St. Charles. Don't quote me on that. I'd have to look that up. And that was part of our I&I reduction strategy. We do have results on that. I think that helps determine a lot of locations. Obviously, age of the structure helps determine locations where footing drains would probably be tied in, because we can look at when the house was constructed, compared it to what the building code was. Obviously, the new building codes require that separated. So I can get you those answers.
I'm just wondering if, once they were identified, if we actually did anything about it. I mean, did we bring it to their attention with solutions?
I believe like the downspouts, yes, because those are easy disconnects. I believe those were identified and the homeowners were instructed to remove the downspouts. And then the other traps and stuff, yes, I think they were. But my understanding is with the I&I inspection requirement per the code, that was the way of of correcting those issues would be at the time of the sale, versus going in and saying, hey, we did a smoke test, you have illegal connections, you now have 90 days to separate your connections. That's my understanding of how it was performed.
Trustee Murphy.
Yes, thank you. I would just like to thank staff for looking into this. It's, from my perspective, long overdue, in an effort to help our residents, number one, and number two, come a little bit closer to matching what our neighboring communities offer. I had a similar circumstance to what Trustee Salela mentioned, where the Parkway tree roots took out my whole front sewer. And while the $1,000 was certainly appreciated, it doesn't come anywhere close to covering the expenses associated with the repairs. So I thank you for looking into this, and I highly encourage the changes to this program. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I think that does it. I think, yeah, we'll discuss and we'll get some numbers together on.
And bring back, if I could, President, also looking at village taking over at the curb, switch to a per owner option, and then information separate from this is the information on what a full plumbing inspection is supposed to, what a full plumbing inspection with a transfer of property entails.
None of their interest of time, but are some of the proposals something worth continuing down?
Yeah,
Policy
further
change in terms
discussion, yeah.
of the additional amounts, is that
Yes.
census, I guess, would be the question?
I would think, yeah, we want some more information. I wouldn't mind coming back on another COW with all numbers so we can discuss that. Okay. Trustee Gozer?
No, I was just going to agree. I think you're headed right in the right direction. I like that there's increases. I would even say potentially more increases on some of them. So, yes, I'd definitely like to continue discussion and get this up for a change.
Okay. Trustee Kumar?
I also know, like, for a lot of my sewer repairs, I have, like, insurance, and a lot of people have insurance, and or they buy insurance for that in case there's a problem. That being said, I mean, even that doesn't cover, it's capped at that point, and so that, you know, getting to this point, it's a good idea to add whatever we add, and it doesn't cover from the parkway, it only covers from that part inside, so that's another issue.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, we'll move on to public comments. Anyone in the audience?
Mike Orlowski. Actually, I wanted to ask Mike, on the separation, the one-time deal, are you requesting to have it separated from the basement drain and the storm and the sanitary sewer? Those be separate instances, or are they still going to be combined as a one-time deal?
I would ask for the I&I to be a separate program.
Okay, so
individual-
you could come to the village for each one of those, not, because right now, I know it's currently, you can either come for one or the other, and that's it.
Correct. I think my proposal would be the I&I would be one
Okay,
application,
yes,
and then you
yes,
could
that
still
would be
come in
good, then.
for a building.
I definitely agree with Dave on, I had the same problems. Tree got into my sewer, and it was basically, until they cut the tree down, I'm gonna rod my sewer. I'm not gonna keep, I'm not, because the problem that I had, my road was bad, which caused my sewer problem, and then caused my, and then my other question, for those trustees that are in favor of the 100% green initiative for the village, how many of you currently have green initiatives all over your house? So everybody's got solar panels and everything on their house?
Well, I wasn't eligible, but I do have a
Hang
lot
on,
of
we're
initiatives.
not really here for a discussion, but it's just.
And I just like to make sure that those that are voting in favor of that they are definitely all in favor of having all green initiative. I'll be lucky to opt out.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other comments? Okay, motion to adjourn from our COW meeting?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, a second? Trustee Corkery? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we will close our COW and we will reconvene our normal meeting in about 5 minutes. Thank you.